You are about to experience Jackson Snyder Presents. Direct from the Vero Essin Yahad, a Hebrew Nation radio original program. JSP is a variety show seeking out Jewish and Christian origins, religion, theology and history, and doing so in a fashion that is both educational and entertaining. Welcome to Jackson Snyder Presents.
Good day, I hope, and Tov blessings to you. This is Jackson, and I'm trying out a new microphone and a new placement today. So my sound is going to be a little tinny and a little distant. I've been having some trouble with my sound system, and so I'm trying to iron it out. And in the meantime, I'm going to be recording a series on Satan and demons, and I think that you'll find this little essay to be quite challenging. I want to thank you for being with me and sticking with me. I'm almost up to 800 subscribers now in YouTube. Please, if you haven't subscribed, click the button at youtube1.org. Listen to a little bit, click like, put down a comment. You'll be doing me a great favor. Things start opening up for people when their subscribers get to 1,000. And I've been doing this for 11 years to get this far. Yahweh bless you as you listen to some things about demonism that might surprise you. Part 1 in a series simply entitled Satan. Exorcising Demons from the Biblical Archaeology Library.
Pazuzu, Lamashtu, Katyu, Shaseru, Sasam, Lilith, Asmodeus, Beelzebub, names to conjure with.
Why do demons, so prominent in the greater Near Eastern world, in the New Testament, and in the post-biblical world of Judaism and Christianity, play such a minor role in the Hebrew Bible? Throughout the ancient Near East, demons were thought to be the agents of bad fortune, including disease. Only professional sorcerers and exorcists knew how to repel them. Similarly, in the New Testament, one way that Yeshua and his disciples established their credibility is by expelling demons, thereby curing dumbness, deafness, blindness, lameness, and epilepsy. The first century Jewish historian Josephus describes King Solomon as an accomplished demonist who composed medical incantations and invented exorcistic practices, while later Talmudic literature discusses the demons that Solomon employed to build the temple. Post-biblical rabbinic literature, particularly from Babylonia, teems with invisible demons that lurk all around, outnumbering humanity, gathering in bands at night. Furthermore, dozens of mid-first millennia CE incantation bowls for Babylonia bear Aramaic inscriptions largely concerned with repelling demons, attest to the popularity of post-biblical Jewish demonism. In the Arab Middle East, the jinn are a staple of popular belief. Quote, they are both sexes and have big eyes extending to the corners of their mouths, writes a Czech explorer. The food they prefer is raw meat, and fresh blood is their favorite drink. They live in high mountains, inaccessible ravines, and old ruins. They never have tents. Their dens are situated underground in rock crevices, caverns, and vaults of deserted buildings, unquote. But in the Hebrew Bible, demons are insignificant. It isn't that they don't appear. For example, we come across the Sharim, literally the hairy ones, in Leviticus 17:7, 2 Chronicles 11:15, and Isaiah 13:21. We also encounter a being named Lilith, from the Akkadian demon Lilitu in Isaiah 34:14, and an evil spirit or desert demon called Azazel to whom Aaron must send a live scapegoat in an act of purification, according to Leviticus 16. And yet, these demons play no explicit role in the Bible's conception of how the world came to be and how it still operates. Absent are the exorcisms of ancient Near Eastern tradition. Not even foreign sorcerers, such as Balaam, attempt to channel demonic power. The Bible suggests that demons do not linger among us, that they lurk in the wilderness, far from civilization. And yet we may find in the Bible many examples of demonic behavior, what we may call pseudo-demonism, in particular the assumption of demonic qualities by Yahweh and his servants. In Amos 3:6, we see Yahweh's capacity for causing trouble. Is there Ra in the city, and Yahweh did not make it? The prophet Isaiah elaborates upon this sentiment. I, Yahweh, and none other, molding light and creating dark, making well-being and creating harm. Ra. I, Yahweh, make all these things. Isaiah 45:6-7. Yahweh's violent, erratic behavior when he attacks Moses or his son in Exodus 4, the text is ambiguous. At the latter circumcision has been long likened to that of a demon. Likewise, the angel Jacob wrestles within the fords of the Jabbok River, behaves like a river demon, somewhat like the troll under the bridge in Scandinavian folklore. When Saul suffers from what we now easily recognize as bipolar disorder, we are told that a bad spirit from Yahweh possesses him. 1 Samuel 16. In 2 Samuel 24, an angry Yahweh tempts David into taking a census of all the people in Israel. In many cultures, ancient and modern, the act of taking a head count attracts demons. The greater the population, the more plentiful the victims. After David takes his count, he realizes immediately that he's done wrong. As a consequence of his sin, Elohim, behaving just like a demon, sends a pestilence to Israel, destroying many of its people. The most striking biblical example of pseudo-demonism is the Paschal, or Passover ritual of Exodus 12. The Israelites are commanded to slaughter a lamb or kid and place the blood on the doorposts and lintels of their houses. In this way, they can be recognized and spared by
The destroyer.
apparently an aspect of Yahweh who will wreak havoc on Egypt. This ritual, the Pesach, bears a strong similarity to the popular Arabic rite known as Fidya or Fidyu, meaning redemption, in which a lamb's or goat's blood is applied to persons, things, or doorways to protect them from demons, especially during transitional periods of life such as births, circumcisions, marriages, or the building of new homes. One of Elohim's servants is particularly demonic, the adversary, or Satan in the book of Job. This Satan is not the devil of Christianity, though he is most assuredly a devil, that is, an afflicting spirit. With divine permission, he volunteers to torture the innocent Job to test his piety. Unlike later conceptions of Satan, this character is not inherently evil, he just enjoys his work. According to 1 Chronicles 12:21-1, it is this Satan and not Yahweh who tempts David into counting the people of Israel. Pre-Israelite and post-Israelite literature is rife with demons, and yet they are nearly absent from the Hebrew Bible. To explain this continuity, I would infer that the Israelites themselves acknowledged demons' existence, hence their occasional appearance in Scripture. But why does the Bible attribute demonic behavior to Yahweh and his servants instead of real demons? Sociology and anthropology tell us that people throughout history have sustained and been sustained by a belief in multiple invisible powers. You believe it? I believe it. According to almost all religious traditions, the ether is populated by spirits of considerable intelligence and power. disposed to work us either good or harm. The Greek term for such a being is daimon. The Latin term is genius, or genius. We like to think that the benevolent spirits are more powerful than the malevolent, and we call them the Elohim. But we are not sure that the kindly spirits are always thinking of us, whereas the hostile spirits assuredly are, since we are, so to speak, their livelihood, their food, and their drink. Why have almost all people who have ever lived believed in these spirits? Demonism, or the belief that someone is out to get us and we can do something about it, reflects both our pervasive paranoia and our incurable optimism, equally necessary for survival in a harsh world. But demonism also appeals to speculative thought. It provides a satisfying explanation for why bad things happen, to good and bad alike. Better, surely, to live in a cosmos infested with hostile beings than to inhabit an utterly senseless universe. Scholars increasingly acknowledge the possibility of a cultural gap between the ancient Israelite masses, whose villages we excavate, on the one hand, and the literate urban elite that wrote the Hebrew Bible on the other. If the intellectuals who wrote the Bible largely ignored the existence of demons, then they must have had another way to account for and control fortune and misfortune. This was, of course,
the covenant and Torah.
Most biblical authors shared a belief that Elohim had not just a social, but a legal relationship with Israel. Elohim is suzerain. Israel is vassal. But Elohim is no arbitrary despot. He has bound himself to a mechanical mode of behavior. If Israel is good, he must bless. If Israel is evil, he must curse, especially in Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28. Under the covenant, demons, the cause of misfortune, are literally converted into sins, as we see in Genesis 4:7. Sin is a demonic croucher at the doorway. His lust is for you, but you can master him. One marvels at the chutzpah of the Israelite theologian who thought that up. It potentially made Elohim's Israel's servant, the genie in the lamp, but only potentially. The beauty of the system was that it was hard to falsify. The covenant was so complicated and demanded, and yet so vague, that someone somewhere could always be found in violation of it. An entire profession, the prophets, undertook to prove to society that the covenant explained their experiences, both good and bad. As prophecy flourished, demonism languished. We should see a lesson in that. So did healing in general. For as it is well known, the Bible is extremely suspicious of medicine. I quote, "If you listen well to the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, and do what is right in his eyes, and pay heed to his commands and observe all his rules, that all the diseases that I set in Egypt I will not set upon you. Rather, I, Yahweh, shall be your healer." Exodus 15:26. King Asa of Yehuda, 911 BC, by consulting doctors, is said to have rejected Elohim. 2 Chronicles 16:12. Over time, however, Jews became disillusioned with the old-style covenant. In particular, the extinction of first the northern kingdom of Israel in 722 BC, and then the southern kingdom of Yehuda in 587 BC, seemed vastly disproportionate to any sin the people or their ancestors may have committed. In post-biblical Judaism, the covenant was no longer a way of controlling Elohim. It was a way of controlling Israel. In other words, Jews no longer behaved in a certain way so that Elohim would bless them. They behaved in a certain way because Elohim had blessed them. Recompense for current actions was postponed to the afterlife or the Messianic age, a theme carried over in Christianity. No surprise then that in the second half of the first millennium BC, especially under the influence of Persian religion, with its richly textured cosmos of good and and bad spirits that I have spoken of in my last few episodes, demonology regained its intellectual credibility. For ultimately, demonology is a manifestation of the hope, however forlorn, that against the odds we can master our destiny. Today, in the West, demonology is once again in decline, which may be unfortunate, just like prayer and Torah is in decline, though many, or shall I say most, Americans believe in Satan's maleficence. Few actually try to control demons, and that's why we say it's in decline. And they don't tend to blame demons for their misfortune, though some blame demons for everything. Well, why not? The main misfortunes of life have to do with disease. Confronted with the progressive paralysis of a limb or the loss of mental coherence, we turn to medical diagnosis and treatment, not to sorcery and exorcism. All are venerable techniques, but the former seem to be more efficacious and, above all, intellectually satisfying, even if many syndromes resist classification and treatment. Where have all the demons gone? We have again learned not to see them. The Bible replaced them with sins, and we have replaced them with bacteria, viruses, traumas, defective chromosomes, and mental maladies. We don't see our chin anymore, but they lurk within us, in our blood, and in our bones.
Do you mind if I tell you a little story from Father Creamly last Sunday night?
Only if you think it's appropriate. I mean, the last time you did this, it was not appropriate.
I guess that means yes. When Father Creamly of our presumptuous Assumption, Church of the Guiding Light, was trying to exorcise the popsicle lady that drives that little truck, you know, that plays Mary Had a Little Lamb, the demon began to identify itself, and in doing so showed its weakness. And then 7 different voices of that demon came out of victim's mouth all at the same time. And the last one was Leviathan, which identified itself as a particularly strong demon. Father Creamly of the Church of the Presumptuous Assumption commanded the demon to say, "Hail Mary, full of grace," and depart. Well, the demon laughed and said, "Grace of a fool." I guess that meant instead of full of grace. Then Father Creamly commanded to obey and submit to the power of Jesus Christ. Then it changed its voice to a child's and said,
"Hail Mary, full of grace."
And there was a shriek, and quicker than you can snap your fingers, all manifestations of evil were gone. It was a sticky August day, so Father Creamly and I stopped at Dairy Queen for a chocolate shake afterward. Now, here's my question. Don't you think that experience would make a great commercial for Dairy Queen? I am thinking of sending it in. Now, what do you think, Brother Snyder?
You say Father Creamly did this? Of the Church of the Presumptuous Assumption and the Guiding Light?
Oh, yes, of course. You know, my pastor from a long time ago.
I don't think that man could cast a demon out of a popsicle, to be perfectly honest with you. But, again, this is not in good taste, especially right now. Now, if you're going to break in with these ridiculous questions, I'm going to have to put you out of here when I am recording.
Who do you think is going to edit all this stuff you talk about if you throw me out?
Well, Brother Shruumkoff, right there, that's the voice of a demon, and probably the popsicle demon.
Oh, you're wrong, I can tell you that.
You have been listening to Jackson Snyder Presents on Hebrew Nation Radio.